and it was a detailing letter. Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right. This is a letter to your wife from prison. What did you say?
To make sure they understood why I do what I do. And it's me believing that the worst will come.
That you will die in jail.
The worst will come, and I want my children to know that I haven't,
A storm is building, and 3 high-profile figures are right at the center: Elon Musk, Tommy Robinson, and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. But this goes beyond routine politics. It's about influence, free speech, and the consequences of challenging authority. Robinson, a deeply polarizing figure, is now in solitary confinement under circumstances that have sparked serious public scrutiny. He insists there's a reason behind it, claiming he holds information certain leaders would rather never surface. According to him, the silence isn't coincidence, it's strategy. As tensions rise and questions intensify, the issue expands beyond one man's situation into a broader clash over power, transparency, and who ultimately controls the narrative.
Well, I know what they're going to do, what I believe they're going to do, and that I know no one can tell me why I was brought to that prison only.
Now the situation escalates. Elon Musk, the billionaire behind Tesla, SpaceX, and X, isn't staying silent. He's stepping forward, framing this as a direct challenge to free expression. Musk has openly suggested that Tommy Robinson isn't being sidelined for legal reasons, but for voicing views that disrupt the establishment narrative, and he's willing to face the backlash that comes with saying so. That raises a bigger question: is this about justice or about control? Why would one of the world's most influential figures back Robinson so publicly? Confined to a small cell and isolated from the outside world, Robinson argues this goes beyond a standard sentence. He calls it a calculated effort to mute him. The real question is whether this is enforcement of the law, or a strategic move in a much larger power struggle.
I said to my wife, I'm getting moved, but nothing from the outcry outside, from Lord Pearson, who's a lawyer in this UK, making comments to make sure I'm safe, I knew that nothing had been done to do that.
So you're sat down writing your letter to your wife and your children, and what are you telling them?
That I know by doing what I do that that moment will come. And I know that, and I've chose that.
And you want your children to know that you didn't choose it over them.
So I detailed to my wife that it's not about them. It's not about our children. It's about every child, everyone's. I'm not apologising because not for 1 minute I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm apologising.
In October 2024, Tommy Robinson, born Stephen Yaxley Lennon, was sentenced to 18 months in prison for contempt of court after breaching a high court order that prohibited him from repeating specific allegations about a Syrian refugee. Legally, the ruling was clear. But Robinson argues this goes far beyond a courtroom violation. He claims the real objective is to silence him permanently. The situation intensified when he was placed in solitary confinement, something he insists is not routine in his case, but deliberate. According to Robinson, this is a calculated decision driven by those at the top, pointing directly at Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He maintains that powerful figures fear what he knows, and what he could reveal if given a platform, framing his isolation not as standard enforcement, but as part of a broader effort to keep him unheard.
They're spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible. They're not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves. Those who are cheerleading Tommy Robinson are interested in justice. They're supporting a man who went to prison for nearly collapsing a grooming case, a gang grooming case. These are people who are trying to get some kind of vicarious thrill from street violence that people like Tommy Robinson promote.
Critics argue that false narratives are being pushed far and wide, driven less by concern for victims and more by personal agendas. They say those rallying behind Tommy Robinson aren't defending justice, but standing by a man previously jailed after actions that risked undermining a serious grooming case. In their view, some supporters are drawn not by principle, but by the confrontation and unrest that often surround his campaigns. Yet whether you back him or strongly oppose him, one fact remains: this story has grown beyond one individual behind bars. It raises a deeper issue: can someone be confined not just physically, but publicly silenced? Robinson insists there is more beneath the surface, suggesting powerful interests want certain matters kept out of sight, and questioning why Prime Minister Keir Starmer would want him sidelined. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, never known for restraint, stepped into the debate. In January 2025, he took to X demanding clarity: why solitary confinement? Was this strictly legal consequence or something more strategic? Musk openly suggested Robinson's imprisonment was less about wrongdoing and more about the views he expressed, intensifying an already explosive debate over truth, accountability, and who controls the narrative.
Tommy Robinson, and Nigel said he would go to the US and explain to Elon Musk that actually Tommy Robinson was in contempt of court, and that's a criminal activity and his incarceration is justified. But actually, I'm completely with Elon Musk. I think Tommy Robinson shouldn't be in jail. It was a civil action. It was a defamation case that was made against Tommy. No one typically goes to jail as a result of a civil action. You might have to pay a fine or a penalty or a settlement for the defamation caused, but you shouldn't be incarcerated. And what Tommy Robinson did was break an injunction where he showed a film. I think it's called Silence. He showed a film which he had been prohibited from showing. And the Attorney General, and remember, the Attorney General is a political appointment. It's a Labour Party individual who holds that office since the Labour Party was elected, decided he was going to intervene.
This wasn't just another flare-up online. Elon Musk moved beyond posts and reactions. Reports indicate he's prepared to financially support Tommy Robinson in his legal fight, a serious step that signals commitment, not just commentary. Musk appears convinced Robinson is being unfairly targeted, and he seems ready to stand behind that belief. But why would one of the world's wealthiest figures involve himself so directly? For Musk, it circles back to one principle: free expression. He has repeatedly positioned himself against what he views as censorship, challenging governments and media platforms he believes attempt to shape or restrict public debate. Now his attention has shifted toward the UK government, placing Prime Minister Keir Starmer under sharper scrutiny. With Musk fully engaged, this story expands far beyond a single legal case. It becomes a broader confrontation over speech, power, and who ultimately controls the public conversation.
Student of history, which I am, then a student of history will tell you that there's a very good chance that Tommy Robinson will one day be the Prime Minister of England.
Wow.
Yes, very good chance. Well, you know, if you're a student of history, if you're not a student of history.
Even from inside a prison cell, Tommy Robinson insists he won't be silenced. He argues the UK government's aim isn't simply to enforce a sentence, but to mute him because of what he claims to know, information he believes could embarrass powerful figures, particularly Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Robinson maintains that his placement in solitary confinement is no coincidence, but a deliberate move to restrict his voice and limit his reach. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has publicly challenged the official narrative, portraying the situation as a question of control rather than straightforward justice. Using his platform to amplify the case, Musk has accused the UK government of curbing free expression, turning what began as a domestic legal matter into a high-profile international debate over power, transparency, and the limits of speech.
Prison system is the whole world's watching the failure and the attempt to mentally break a British journalist for daring to.
Through X, Elon Musk has repeatedly argued that governments should not be the gatekeepers of public speech. He views Tommy Robinson's situation as evidence that open expression is under mounting pressure, posing a pointed question: if it can happen to someone so high-profile, what prevents it from happening to anyone else? With Musk amplifying the case, the conversation stretches far beyond one individual. It becomes a debate over who defines truth and who controls the narrative. Robinson remains sharply polarizing. Supporters describe him as bold and unfiltered, while critics see him as a source of division. His history of legal disputes and convictions continues to shape public opinion. Yet Musk argues the central issue should not rest solely on past controversies, but on whether any individual is being penalized for speaking out, transforming the controversy into a broader clash over speech, authority, and accountability.
It's Tommy Robinson. And the bar for the Attorney General to make such a decision is a high one. He shouldn't interfere in the legal process unless he thinks it's a matter of important public interest. And then so it was a politically motivated case, no doubt about it, against Tommy Robinson. And then, of course, the judge decided to incarcerate him, which again seems disproportionate for showing a film. You shouldn't be sent to jail for, minimum 9 months for showing a...
By turning X into a global megaphone, Elon Musk is actively reshaping the narrative. He portrays Tommy Robinson as a man targeted by a government that objects to his words, and with Musk's enormous reach, that message is spreading at speed. The pressing question is whether this wave of attention will shift public opinion, or whether Robinson's past will continue to define him. What began as a domestic controversy has now crossed borders. When someone with Musk's influence steps in, the debate becomes international. At its core lies a fundamental issue, free expression, where its limits should stand, and whether governments should silence opposing voices or simply apply the law. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces renewed scrutiny, not only as the country's leader, but also for his earlier tenure as Director of Public Prosecutions, with critics re-examining past decisions and questioning whether they reveal a broader stance on handling dissent.
No matter how long you lock me up here for, and I expect them to come in with more charges. I expect them to try and do everything they can, because the public right now are listening. The world is watching. The more you try and crush us, the more you try and mentally break us, the more support we will gather. And people aren't buying your nonsense anymore. And this, again, I don't want people to be feeling sorry for me. I just want to point out their injustice, their lies. This doesn't have to be, my sentence doesn't have to be like this. I shouldn't even be in jail. I shouldn't be in jail. But I was willing to come to jail to put them on trial. I said that in the build-up. I'm not on trial here. The judiciary is. And right now the world, I'm not humiliated in the world's eyes. You are. The British judiciary is a laughingstock to the...
With Elon Musk relentlessly turning up the heat, this saga shows no signs of dying down. What began as a legal dispute has exploded into a high-stakes clash over power, influence, and principle. The ultimate question now looms: who will emerge on top, the UK government, Musk himself, or the broader ideal of free speech? Tommy Robinson remains behind bars, steadfastly claiming his voice is being silenced for speaking truths that challenge authority. Meanwhile, Musk refuses to back down, leveraging his global platform to confront the government head-on and scrutinize Starmer's leadership like never before. Starmer, in turn, struggles to steer attention back to governance, but the storm around this case only intensifies. Critics aren't just debating one man's imprisonment, they're questioning how dissent is managed in contemporary Britain, spotlighting the tension between state power and individual expression. Around the world, the debate over free speech, political influence, and the limits of authority is unfolding live, forcing a reckoning with how far the law can reach without stifling open dialogue.
At the time, he was considered a criminal, a serious, real bad person. And, he eventually turned out to be...
So what comes next in this unfolding drama? Will Tommy Robinson's imprisonment ignite a wider pushback against censorship across the UK and beyond, turning his case into a symbol for those alarmed by shrinking free speech? Or will Elon Musk's relentless involvement prove the true catalyst, shining an unflinching light on government power and forcing real scrutiny and potential change? Of course, like many political flashpoints, there's always a chance the controversy could gradually fade as new headlines capture attention. Yet this story has already grown far beyond one man behind bars. It now centers on a global debate over the limits of expression, the authority of governments to enforce the law, and the influence of powerful figures in shaping public perception. At stake are fundamental questions: who decides what crosses the line? When does law enforcement slide into silencing dissent? And who controls the narrative in an era of instant global communication? With Musk refusing to step back and continuing to amplify Robinson's case, the pressure isn't easing anytime soon. Whether this sparks reform, fuels deeper division, or triggers a dramatic political twist, the next chapter is looming, and it may arrive sooner than most expect.